Okay, Shannon, please put us back on the record. Okay, any further proofs, Mr. White?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Hotchkiss?
Honor, I'd call Ms. Webb.
Ms. Webb, would you raise your right hand, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor.
You can put your hand down now. State your full name for the record.
Sarah Lee Webb.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, Mr. Hotchkiss.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Webb, you're the mother to Rain and David, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
And you understand that we're here today because the agency has requested a termination of your parental rights. Do you understand that?
Yes, I understand that.
Okay. And you've heard Ms. Howling testify as to the reasons that she does not believe that you are in a place now where your children can be returned to your care. Do you remember her testimony?
Is that Lindsay's last name? Holloway?
Yes, that's Lindsay. Yeah, Ms.
Yes,
Coolin,
I heard her.
yes,
I heard
Lindsay.
her testify, but where they would be
Well,
returned to.
But let me stop right there. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions here. You heard her testify that they had originally scheduled a psychological evaluation for you, but for various reasons, you were not able to participate. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
And if the court decides not to terminate your parental rights today, are you willing to participate in a psychological evaluation?
Of course.
And would you be willing to follow any recommendations that would come from that evaluation?
Of course. I would complete everything.
Okay. Ms. Cooling also testified that you did not complete your substance abuse assessment. Do you remember being ordered to complete that assessment?
I believed it was voluntary because of things I had prior to this that happened over a 6 to 8 year period with my other child, George Danielson, that is 12 now. I've had things that have gone on for about 8 years prior to this, and it was all voluntarily. So I thought it was voluntary, but I was still doing it, of course, because I love my children very much, all of them.
Did you go to Family Service and Children's Aid or Born Free to have an assessment completed, or did you attempt to do that?
Yes, and I did call. I tried to do Born Free over the phone due to COVID. I believe now that I think we're back into it. I did call and I did do some things over the phone, but then I was told to go to the Family Aid over on, I believe it's East Michigan Road. It's downtown in Jackson, and I went there and I thought it was Born Free and financial, or Born Free and Children's Aid were the same, thing together.
So did you make attempts through those various agencies to complete a substance abuse evaluation?
Yes, and I thought I had finished and did that over the phone once, the substance abuse part.
Okay.
And what I was told, what I was told was I was supposed to wait after I did the one over the phone. They wanted me to wait till I did the psychological evaluation. Wait till I did that to go forward with anything with that. I believe that's what it was. And I didn't have that till January 8th of 2021.
Okay. And so was your understanding that they wanted the results of the psychological evaluation before they did the substance abuse assessment?
Yes, to go on from past to where we were, I did do the substance abuse evaluation over the phone, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, I was doing good in my day-to-day things and everything. So they just were saying to do the psychological screening, wait for that and complete that, and then see.
Do you remember the court ordering? I'm sorry, Ms. Webb, do you remember the court ordering that you complete parenting classes?
I was doing that every Thursday with Angela, and we met up at my house on Woodworth, and we met there like once or twice. I think it was 2 times, and then she wanted to wait for Lindsay to come do an evaluation of the house to make sure that it was appropriate for her to be coming there. And then until then, she said we would meet at the duck pond, which was right near there, since I was having problems with my vehicle, my car, and I didn't have due to COVID, there was a lot of different things like problems going on, services all the time. Like there was like even daily life out in the public where like I was having issues with my vehicle. And then, I wanted to get a good paying job on top of receiving SSI every first of the month. But I would meet with her at the duck pond there every Thursday. And then after that,
are we talking about? Well, let me stop you real quick. You said Angela, is that Miss Crittenden?
Yes, I believe that's the same.
Okay, and you said that she first came to your house, and then some of your sessions would occur at the duck pond. Is that the duck pond over on Lansing Avenue?
Yes, because my house was where I lived. That my dad's had that same property since I was 14, but I was staying there, and until Lindsay could evaluate it and say it was okay for Angela to be there. We started seeing each other every Thursday at the duck pond, and I was attending that just fine, and I was doing a great job, I thought, at it. And we would work on different things each week or go over different things, like different topics about different things in parenting that she thought, like when we would speak with back and forth within each other's conversation, she thought I would do good with whatever topic we talked about. And then I would study things, weekly that we went over or
did
whatever.
Did you find that helpful? Was that helpful to you, Ms. Webb?
Yes, but I feel
like. Did you learn from that?
Yeah, but I'm open, with things with I'm like an honest already type character day to day with anybody I come in contact with, and I'm always working on myself, like I've done a lot of introspection or whatnot, it's called, like with myself, and I work on myself all the time, and I do a good job at I feel like I'm up to par with things. I just have to apply things that I've learned and be the best caregiver I can be going forward.
Ms. Cowling testified that it was her
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Ms. Cowling testified that it's her understanding that Ms. Crittenden stopped seeing you because of non-compliance. Is that your understanding of what happened?
I heard her say that, and it upset me because it wasn't because of non-compliance. Well, I mean, I ended up going to jail over something that should be dismissed. We go to court on it tomorrow. Something that happened in January, but it wasn't because of my wanting to not comply. It was because I couldn't call her from jail, and I didn't know the number, and I plus couldn't collect, and I had no funds, and I didn't have no way to get a hold of her, and nobody got a hold of me to be able to, reach her.
How long were you in jail?
Unfortunately,
how long were you in jail, Ms. Webb?
And this has never happened before. I'm not usually in jail ever, as a caregiver. I just want to make that like evident. It was from the 6th of January, the night of the 6th to February 2nd of 2021.
Okay. So approximately a month.
Yes, and that's due to me not being able to bond myself out, and the judge thought I was going to bond myself out on a PR bond that I asked for.
Okay. Are you still there, Ms. Webb? Ms. Webb, can you hear me? Ms. Webb? Can anyone else hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't my system, so, okay. Ms. Webb?
Okay, we lost her completely. Let's see if she tries to sign back in. Ms. Cooling, do you have her phone number?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Why don't you give me that and I'll try to call her.
Okay, just 1 second. Let me pull it up really quickly. Her contact number is 517-769-1036.
Hello?
Hello, Ms. Webb?
Yes, yeah, I was just trying to reach you guys on Zoom.
All right. If you don't mind, we can continue with you on the telephone. I can hear you quite well.
Yes,
Go,
that'll be good.
okay, go ahead, Mr. Hotchkiss.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Webb, we were talking about the parenting classes that you were taking with Ms. Crittenden. And is it your testimony that the reason those stopped is because you went to jail?
Yes, yes.
Okay, is that the only reason that you stopped participating with her?
Yeah, and we were going, everything was going great and well. And, you know, we had a large break right before jail. So it might have seemed to like Angela, like we hadn't seen each other in a while, or maybe it clouded her memory some like in a report. Or I thought because everything was going great and we met up at my house on the first two like Thursdays, I believe it was. And then after that, it was the duck pond every Thursday. I might have had to cancel once or twice, and I did have some issues with my car before because I had to go to Lansing every day. 5 days a week I go to Lansing, you know, from Jackson I was then, and it was hard getting, you know, back and forth to my doctor's appointment up in Jackson every day, and it was challenging, like my lifestyle was, you know, but anyhow, I had met up with her every Thursday at the duck pond. And then after that, we made it because it started getting cold outside because the weather was good prior to that. We started meeting at McDonald's over on Northwest Avenue every Thursday. And we did like a few Thursdays of doing that. And then Christmas break came, you know, after the first 2 weeks of December, you know, we didn't see each other until like the first week of January it was going to be. And then that's when this, you know, domestic thing happened with my boyfriend and I. But hopefully that gets dismissed tomorrow. We have court for that. But I was hit first and I shouldn't have gone to jail for what happened and hopefully it gets dismissed, but it's caused a ruckus, you know, with my whole court case and, you know, it's just been challenging. But the point is we didn't see each other for the whole break of December, and me and Angela didn't see each other from like the final 2 weeks in December, you know, because of the holiday break. And then I was going to go back on track with her, but then this happened. And also I wasn't able to go to my neurology testing on January 8th because I was in jail, unfortunately.
Okay, you heard Ms. Cooling testify
you know?
about Ms. Cooling testified about your supervised visits. And she testified essentially that you were not consistent with your supervised visits, both when they were in person at the DHS and then over the phone and Zoom. Do you recall those visits you had with your children?
Yes, of course, and I have a great memory. And I've, played memory games and things with my ex-partner Clay and other people, and they know I have a great memory usually. I sometimes can have maybe a couple errors with something short term, but that's usually because I was stressed or something like that. But anyhow, my visits with my children, I've had ongoing things, like I said, for like 8 years that happened with my prior child. Like I have 3 sons and 1 daughter, and my just so that we're all on the same page here, like my daughter our rights were terminated at age 2 from my daughter with her father and I in Denver, Colorado, but the same judge gave us a deferred adjudication 6 months later and helped me to have full custody of my son David and his father as well. And we moved back here due to George being here, his brother, and I wanted them to have a life together, and all of us have each other, as a family. And we moved back here, David, Clay, and I. And so Rain came later on.
Ms. Webb, what kind of relationship?
Back here. And, I'm sorry.
Ms. Webb, what kind of relationship do you have with David? What kind of relationship do you have with David?
I have a wonderful, strong, very strong, that's forevermore, for life and on, like everlasting. He's everything to me. And I know, like, right when he sees me, he's happy. He's not having any issues. He's back to his old happy self within the snap of the fingers. He's joyful, like robust, happy, and filled with life, and just super happy to be around mommy and vice versa. And we have a magnetic, crazy, really sparking, like, the greatest love you can have for a mother and son, and vice versa.
Okay. What about with Rain? Rain is 1 year old, right?
Yes, we also have our bond. Just I want to say, David and mine's bond will, always be we're no time lost, like we're just we're happy to be with each other and in a state of love, like in a respectful, mother and son way. But it's just like we learn together. We're, playful in a learning great way. I do parenting love and logic, and I don't believe in yelling at my child and then hitting or being mean or intimidating or scaring or threatening or fearful. I believe in, teaching right from wrong, but with love and logic. It's a parenting style that I learned a long time ago, and I do great with it. I'm wonderful with it. My mom said my first 2 years of having George, she said I was how did she word it? She said I was she just meant not profound, but great. I forget the word because I got a lot on my mind right now from everything in the trial. But she just said I was a really great mother for George, and I'm the same way for David. And anyhow, not to get off of your original question about my bond with David and Rain. So Rain's bond and mine's our bond, even though he just turned 1, he's playful, and he's always he can go from smiling really big or crying, but I always comfort him within no time, and I hold him, and he gets to trusting me and not crying. And, he was just bouncing up and down on my thigh the last time I held him with his, I put my 2 index fingers out for his hands, to hold. And then he surprisingly was jumping up and down, standing really strong and bouncing up and down in a bounce. And my other 2 children, boys, never did like that. And I thought it was really funny and awesome and playful. And he's a cliffhanger, I said, like jokingly, because he just stuff he does with his legs and things are different from my other kids, like with bending them and crawling, and he picks his whole leg up, like I said, 180 degrees, like pretty much. But our bond is like a playful, strong one, and I know like when he sees me, I know he hasn't forgotten me, and he knows like, you know, like that I'm his mom, like mama, you know, too. But it's just, you know, I haven't had a lot of time with him, but we still have our connection.
Ms. Webb, are you currently using any illegal drugs?
No.
And if the judge decided that it was not in the best interest of your children to terminate your parental rights, would you engage yourself in any services that were to be ordered by the court?
Of course, and I know that, you know, I've had ongoing court cases, and Judge LaFlamme has been the judge in those cases. And with my older son, you know, George, I was told that if I came back every spring that I would have a chance at getting my son George back. My older son George recently told me just within like 4 months ago, he said, like, how am I supposed to be a big brother if we don't all live together? And then, you know, he started to cry, and it made me cry. And I've been wanting to get my children all together to, you know, so that he can feel like a big brother like that. And I'm happy that David was just placed with, you know, around George temporarily, with my mother being the temporary guardian, but she also still has a temporary guardianship with my son George. And I'm sorry, your original question was that I was just trying to like let the judge know.
I understand. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Ms. Webb. Do you believe it's in Rain and David's best interest that your parental rights be terminated?
Absolutely not, because, you know, not only I don't need to be selfish and just in my point of view, but I know as their mother, you know, I can teach them the best in a way that's, you know, anybody that I was raised with, they always had a way of being abusive in some way. And I, you know, learned how to not be that way towards my children, like everything I've learned since being, you know, in regular grade school, and then all the traveling I did. I went to 40 out of 50 states after graduating from high school in my 20s, and I used to say I went to every state skateboarding, but I did that, you know, like and I've seen a lot of landscapes, and I thought that was good for mental health and for the mind to heal, like seeing different pretty, you know, places and things. And I read, you know, books about like the road less traveled and further along the road less traveled and the Celestine prophecy and the way of the peaceful warrior. And I read all these books, and I educated myself, and I did a ton of introspection. And since, you know, my car accident, to note, say on mental health, you know, sorry, I'm getting full of myself here, but I just lost thought because of I'm just saying, like, I've gone to school and I've gotten 4.0s is what I was saying. Like, after my car accident, I've got 4.0s, and I had a couple 3.5s, but out of 15 prerequisite classes after my car accident, the traumatic brain injury, which they also said there was no signs of that, and when I was declared fit once already with Judge LaFlamme for my 2.5-year-old son at the time, he's 12 now, but I was already declared fit. And I'm saying, like, they said there was no signs of it, and I've gotten 4.0s, and I'm planning on going back to school. And what your question was on how will we be affected, you know, my sons and I, like, I just want to say that, like, it would kill me, and it would be bothersome to my sons, because they wouldn't have the love that they can get from me as their mother. They wouldn't have, like, you know, like the roads and the opportunities that me being a part of their lives opens up. And usually I can, on the snap of the fingers, you know, help somebody, and I have answers. Like, sometimes if you go to a psychologist, you know, you go there and you spill out everything to the psychologist, but, you know, they have you say, like, what you feel and get it out, but they don't always never have any, like, roadmaps or answers or nurturing things. And I have all of that, like, within the snap of the fingers for my sons, especially. Like, I have a zestful love that's, like, you know, unending for them. And without me in their lives, you know, they won't have that. And, I mean, from the sidelines, I'll always try to be there for them, but I don't want us to be, you know, not rich and not have quality. I want us to be able to become a family, like, and I want to fulfill all the services, just like I told Judge LaFlamme before I got out of jail. I said I would go to everything, and I still will do that. And I needed to let the judge know about the neurology testing that I was supposed to do on January 8th that I wasn't able to do. There has been, issues because I wasn't able to do that. And I feel like that's at fault as well. Besides COVID-19, I wasn't able to do nothing for the first 5 months. My son went from being 2 weeks old to 6 months old, Rain. And I feel like having all these services that I've had to do before in the past, like denial, kicked in, when I missed some things, it might have been due to emotional crisis, like I was having, like without the dad around, and then Rain's dad not being a part of certain things, and it's a long story, but my mom, when I was raised, she took care of all the kids, and my dad was considered a cheater and not around and not there to appreciate my mom. And that was my biggest fear when I was a mother, kind of I wanted the dad to be a part of the picture. And my first son, George, his father, unfortunately committed suicide when I was 2 weeks pregnant, when I was 25 with my first son. But I thought if I had waited till I was older, because my kids had, babies around age 16 and things. And I waited till I was older, and I wanted to wait till I was out of school and married to have children. But something happened where Ben, wanted to get me pregnant and said he didn't want to give me something that would just die like flowers do right away. And he said he wanted to give me a gift that wouldn't die right away, which was George. And I was thankful of that after finding out, because he committed suicide. And then it went on, I gave him CPR, and anyhow, my fear was I didn't want to be without the father, and I wanted the kids to have a dad. And I always tried to be the mom and the dad, kind of or have a dad there since Ben passed away. And I feel like that was a big distress on me, having to go through this over and over and over again, with my mom. She kept, causing me Grace, she would call DHS, on the day I was declared fit, she was on the phone begging DHS to open up a 30-day investigation on me. And then she lied with some things and did things that I never thought a mother would do, and had my son removed again, George. And it happened 3 major times. And then in this case with, Rain and David being removed, when you ask, do you, Lindsay, do you think that caused me any problems and things psychologically? Well, I had emotional pain looking back on these past few months that caused a delay, or I also have an underlying medical issue that's caused confusion, and I have to go get blood work done on, immediately. I'm here in Lansing, and I just got in a place yesterday, a shelter up here, because I'm waiting for Jackson Community, or I'm number 2 on the Jackson housing list. And my mom, told me after applying for that, I was number 200 and something. She told me to not work, not save money for a house like most people do. And that came out looking different, and it made me look like a bad character maybe. But I'm number 2 now for Jackson housing. But it makes me look, bad.
Ms. Webb?
I'm just trying to clarify everything. Sorry. What's that?
Your attorney has a
Ms. Webb?
question for you.
Well, actually, Your Honor, I think she has answered my questions. I don't have any further questions for her, Ms. Webb, but some of the other attorneys may.
You have questions, Mr. Way?
No, Your Honor.
And Ms. McCluskey, do you have any questions?
No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
So, Ms. Webb, I have a question for you about David.
Okay.
Did you see the report from Dr. Henry of the Children's Trauma Assessment Center?
I heard, I didn't see the report physically, with the paper in my hands, but I heard her, over the Zoom app today and other times.
Well, I have that report in front of me, I want to read some stuff in the report to you. And then after I read it, I'll ask questions about it.
Okay.
We are writing to communicate our significant concerns for David Russell, for whom we conducted a comprehensive neurodevelopmental trauma assessment on October 23 of 2020. During that assessment process, we became extremely concerned for David's well-being as he is demonstrating cognitive delays, compromised executive functioning, emotional dysregulation, a lack of behavioral control, and extreme hypersexualized behaviors that are indicative of complex traumatization. So my question for you, during the time that David was in your care, did you see that he was having cognitive delays?
Not the extreme when the last two, like that you spoke of right there. I might have seen some maybe behavioral functioning delays a little bit, like he'd get really excited about something or really into something, but I've seen that in his dad's behavior as well. Like some of the things are genetic, I feel. But I will work with him about any of these, and I will, I will make sure he sees doctors, and then I make sure he's not around any inappropriate, environmental concerns. I know how to take care of that to a T,
So let me ask you specifically about the hypersexualized behaviors.
Yeah.
They report that David is demonstrating sexualized behaviors that are consistent with young children who have experienced sexual abuse.
He had no sexual abuse on my end of anything.
Hold on, let me finish. He is humping stuffed animals and simulating sexual movements on his bed. His scores on the child behavior sexual inventory for sexually abused specific items were at the ceiling, greater than 110, that's the raw score, reinforcing the concern for his past sexual victimization. Now,
I don't know if anything could have happened with it, like if George or with his dad or something, but nothing that I ever knew of that. He, did watch Animal, maybe seeing a dog do that, and my mom would make jokes about like stuffed animal humping things, but I never liked stuff like that or even things like that being said, but my mom, would make stupid, weird jokes, and that's another reason why I don't like my sons with her. Like,
did you see David demonstrating these sexualized behaviors?
Not really. I remembered maybe seeing like you said, humping an animal, or just like grabbing something or doing something like that. Like, like with clothes on and all of that, like just like doing something goofy, but I don't agree with that. And I felt like, some stuff was out of my control at the time, but I see a different way to handle it now. Just, making sure like good care and mental care, and making sure like bad people aren't around, even like joking, like, or toxic people.
So do you have any explanation as his mother for why David is behaving the way he does?
Just not having, I guess, a strict structure. Like I wanted to do censored. I would never harm my son in any way, shape, or form sexually, and I would never allow anybody to be around him that would. So with that, but I'm saying besides that, like how people, kids can see things on TV or hear things or the people that you're around. I wanted to do that with my first child, George, but my mom, she played a big role in like making me feel not defeated, but she wouldn't work with me, or she would act like things weren't a big deal, and I felt they were, and she'd belittle me in a sense to make me feel or like question things, but I'm not allowing her to be in my life to that extent anymore. And I know better, and I'm a grown woman and 37, but I'm just saying with Kathy still having my son George temporarily, like she has a temporary guardianship, I'm sure you remember, and she just got David, and Reen's still with my stepsister, and I don't like them being separated. But the point is, with Kathy being in charge of, George and David right now, she'll laugh and joke about things, and she'll say anything, like she'll say things that are out of line, like and things that shouldn't be said around people, and that's where my concern is.
Ms. Webb, you've answered my question. The council, any follow-up questions of the areas in which the court questioned Ms. Webb?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Any further presentation, Mr. Hotchkiss?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any presentation, Ms. McCluskey?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
And any rebuttal testimony, Mr. Way?
No, Your Honor, just argument.
All right, let's move to the argument section then. Go ahead, Mr. Way.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm asking that the court terminate Ms. Webb's rights to both David and Reen, and to make a finding that Reen does not have a legal father, which I think would then in turn open him up for adoption. I think the evidence is more than clear and convincing based on Ms. Cooling's testimony of Ms. Webb's noncompliance. We do, the substance abuse issues have not been addressed at all. The psychological, I don't hold it against Ms. Webb. But, her testimony speaks for itself in that regard with her mental health, her traumatic brain injury. Mr. Hotchkiss brought up the traumatic brain injury. Ms. Webb just stated that it's not an issue. She's got a great memory, so that's not an excuse. Ms. Webb clearly has an issue where she does not have any insight into her mental status. And that's not something that you can fix unless you're willing to participate in some sort of services. Ms. Webb has made it clear in her testimony here today that she doesn't need that. She's doing great. She doesn't have any of those issues. So that kind of, I think, takes away from the argument.
Can I say something?
No, you can't.
Sorry. Okay.
That takes away from the argument that the psychological evaluation, I think, was this is this big thing that's hanging out there. And, just the fact that she hasn't participated in anything else, I think gives us a reasonable measuring stick, so to speak, of how she might do with a future psychological and any recommendations that arise out of that. And I think that's contemplated in the language of the first basis in the petition that's cited, talking about reasonable likelihood that these conditions will be rectified. We've seen a year of this time. I know that, this is a 2010 file. The court has experienced this mother previously. I think the results were pretty similar, except that there was a juvenile guardianship done in that case. And then we have a termination in Colorado. So we have reason to believe what to expect. And throughout this past year, nothing has changed. So based on that, I believe that multiple bases exist to terminate Ms. Webb's rights. It's clearly in the children's best interests. They need permanency. We are a long way off from permanency in this case. And I don't frankly think that we would ever be able to get to a point where any of us would feel comfortable that these kids would be safe in Ms. Webb's care. So for those reasons, I am asking that the court terminate Ms. Webb's rights to both David and Rain. Thank you.
Mr. Hotchkiss?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. My client would have me argue that it's not in the best interest of her children to have her parental rights terminated. I know Mr. Way mentioned the psychological evaluation and then compared that to Ms. Webb's testimony. I don't think that it's a far stretch to suggest that someone may not be aware of issues that would cause them deficiencies in certain areas. And that's why we have a psychological evaluation. We don't depend upon parents to tell us what their psychological situation is and what services they are in need of. That's probably was one of the more important services in this whole case, given what's occurred. The other impediment to both the parenting time and the other services was the COVID issue. We went several months where it was on Zoom, it's in person, horrible interruption. And if you have someone who struggles with consistency and focus and so forth, that's probably very difficult to maintain that particular service plan. And she did participate in all of the services, just not to the level that the agency thinks appropriate. She was under the impression that when she was meeting with Ms. Crittenden that she was making progress, and she herself said she's surprised to hear that Ms. Crittenden would suggest that she was non-compliant. She talked about being services at home, at the duck pond, at the McDonald's. So clearly she was participating in that service. Some of her unfortunate missing of services was as a result of her being incarcerated. Obviously impossible to participate while you're incarcerated, but I think it's clear that she loves her children. She wants to provide for her children. She said today that she's committed to another service plan, and if another psychological evaluation was ordered, she would participate and complete the services that were recommended. She doesn't believe it to be in the best interest of her children. She testified to a very strong bond with David. Rain is much younger, and the bond is probably not quite as strong, but she has I think she called it something to the effect of a motherly bond with Rain. And that she definitely believes that it's in those children's best interest that her rights not be terminated. She testified as to all of those reasons why. And so I would ask that the court on her behalf find that it's not in the best interest of these children to terminate her parental rights, even if a statutory basis exists. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McCluskey.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do believe the agency has met its burden, and a statutory basis exists for termination, and it's also in the children's best interest. Very little services have been completed. Obviously, there's not a lot of benefit. I understand no one blames mom for the psychological evaluation, but I do know that Ms. Cooling does a very nice job meeting our parents' needs and identifying those needs, and that these services are just not complete. So I do agree with the agency's position, and I support termination. Thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Wade?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. So I have listened closely to the testimony, and I've had a long history with Ms. Webb. From back when I first became a judge. This was one of my first cases that I have a clear recollection of. And my view of Ms. Webb from the outset and continuing to today, she is not a bad person. Ms. Webb, sadly, was a very normal person living a very normal life with normal problems until she suffered a traumatic brain injury as a teenager in a car accident. And her life was tragically, traumatically changed from that day forward. She has done her best. I understand that. But unfortunately, the kind of trauma she suffered, there just isn't any fix for.
I didn't suffer trauma like that. Kathy picked that up, you know?
Excuse me, Ms. Webb.
Sorry.
You cannot interrupt me.
Sorry.
And she's robbed of a normal life, a normal experience having and parenting children. But she has demonstrated from the very outset that despite her very best efforts, she has not been able to overcome. As we listen to her rambling.
They said there's no signs of a traumatic brain injury, and I don't like to be talked of like that. I'm sorry.
All right, ma'am, if you interrupt me again, I'm not going to let you listen to the rest of this. The result has been, and that I've watched, when every time she has the opportunity to address the court, she engages in nonstop rambling narrative that wanders considerably. And each time I have to stop her. It's like she cannot stop herself. And I picture children in that environment and the impact that it's got to have on them. And I asked her about the trauma assessment, and she had really no good explanation for why it is that this 5-year-old child is demonstrating horrendous difficulties. He's not had a traumatic brain injury. Instead, what he's had is a constant exposure to traumatizing behavior in the care of his mother. The report is, I've never seen a report from the Children's Trauma Assessment Center, whose opinions I value highly, as severe as what I see for David. I'll read some more from this report. Compounding the concern for David, and that's sexual behavior and other trauma that he's demonstrated, is his inability to communicate what he's thinking and feeling. His explosive and aggressive behaviors indicated on the child behavior checklist and the trauma symptom checklist for children reveal clinically significant behaviors for anger, for PTS avoidance, for PTS total, sexual concerns, rule-breaking behaviors, attention and aggressive behaviors. He's unable to communicate his traumatic experiences while with his birth parents due to a lack of language, his young age, and his avoidance of traumatic reminders for self-protection. David has experienced complex traumatization. Visits with David's biological parents were suspended for 3 months in order for him to begin to experience the physical and psychological safety within his relative foster placement. The 3-month suspension allowed him to begin to communicate as well as eliminate the constant trauma triggering he experienced by visiting his birth parents. Although healing is a process, he is beginning to show signs of healing as he experiences physical and psychological safety within his placement. David needs the safety of the court's continued protection. It is in David's best interest that termination occur, given the harm caused by his biological parents and his need for physical and psychological safety with his current relative caregivers. Ms. Webb, despite her best efforts, simply is unable to provide David with the safe, caring environment that he needs. Ms. Webb, has been, I can't fault her for the psych eval, but the fact is she had a psych eval many years ago in this very file, and it's part of the record of which I took a judicial notice. And despite having had that psych eval back in, I think it was 2010, if I remember the date correctly, it didn't result in anything that could correct what frankly is incorrectable. I don't fault Ms. Webb for being a bad person. I have tremendous sympathy for her. I understand she has a strong, loving bond with David. She really hasn't had enough time with Rain to develop that kind of a bond, but it is not a healthy bond. It is not a bond that is good for David. What's good for David, what's best for David, is that he be able to begin to develop a healthy bond with his current caregiver and have some hope of reversing some of the tremendous trauma that he's been exposed to and the impact that it's had on him at such a young age, and begin to experience some real healing. Ms. Webb, for the areas where she, and it looks like she's terminated the call, the areas that were within her control, obtaining a substance abuse assessment, she failed. Participating in random drug screens to at least try to address the substance abuse issues, she's failed. Her participation in parenting classes was erratic at best, despite being given the very highly intensive one-on-one parenting time. The agency has done above and beyond what I would expect to try to help this mother address the problems that brought her children into care. The problem is her problems she is incapable of overcoming. And there's no amount of services that can turn this situation around. She, in the specific grounds for termination, she's been a respondent in a proceeding for 182 days or more. And the conditions that led to adjudication continue to exist. There's no reasonable likelihood they can be rectified within a reasonable period of time. I'm convinced they can never be rectified. Without regard to intent, she's failed to provide proper care and custody. There's no reasonable expectation she'll be able to do so within a reasonable time given the children's age. There's a reasonable likelihood based on her conduct or capacity that these children would be harmed if returned to her care. All of these bases have been clearly met by clear and convincing evidence. And it is indeed in both children's best interest that parental rights be terminated. We have relative placement, which I acknowledge sometimes militates against termination of parental rights. In fact, with a older child, I placed that child in a juvenile guardianship with hopes. Since mom was not making progress then and was no likelihood within a reasonable period of time she could safely parent that child, but I held out some hope that maybe with time this traumatic brain injury could heal So I put that child in a juvenile guardianship. And it appears in retrospect that I probably should have terminated parental rights back then. It's clear a lot of time has passed. Ms. Webb has not gotten the least bit better. She's gotten worse. And I feel for her. This is something that is really beyond her ability and beyond her control. And it's sad, it's tragic, but I cannot subject any child to that environment. We see the outcome of having a child subjected to that environment, and it's revealed in the trauma assessment. I want to give Rain a better chance. I sure hope that with time and healing, that David's complex traumas can be addressed and rectified. I have some hope that that can happen with current placement. He deserves permanency. And placement is willing to adopt. I think that is the very best thing here. As to both children, it is in their best interest that mother's parental rights be terminated. As to Rain, I do make the very specific finding that he does not have a legal father, so that he could be freed for adoption. We are going to proceed in a week with Mr. Russell's release, and hopefully we don't encounter any problem with that. If not, we'll just have to take some additional testimony to deal with his parental rights as they pertain to Rain. I'm sorry, to David. So I do need to set a post term for Rain, and I may ultimately end up combining for David, assuming Dad follows through with a release. Hold on, I'm sure Shannon gave me a date. We'll set that for April 6th at 8:45, and we'll see you all next week, hopefully, to complete the release from the father.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Your Honor.